It's not news to anybody watching that psychedelics strip away the layers of falsity that we have been attaching to ourselves since we were mere children. Maybe from the age of 4 or 5, we began building this shield that we call our persona, that is layer upon layer of falsehood. It is essentially traits and behaviors that we have picked up via osmosis, and some of it consciously, but most of it unconsciously, just the way that we evolve as humans. Most of what our personality has been comprised of wasn't necessarily a conscious choice. And those of us who are consciously deciding to be one way or the other often appear fake. That's what we call someone who's a big phony, because most of us can see when another person is putting on an act, say they're feigning happiness in order to, I don't know, appear to enjoy their place of employment. And most people at work, it feels like a parade of who can be the most fake happy. And it's hilarious when you sit back and you really look at it and you realize that all these people have to pretend that they want to be there because they actually do and don't want to be there. They do want to be there because they need the money to sustain their lives, and they don't want to be there because it's not what they actually want to be doing. If we're talking about like a 9 to 5 type job where you're just pushing papers for another human or another conglomeration of people in order to be a cog in their machine, which you truly don't give a shit about, but you've got to really be convincing that you care, and you care about the goals of the company and this and that and yada, yada, yada. So we got a whole lot of people who are pretending to be someone that they're not. Now, it's not news that psychedelics are going to take all of those fake layers and tear them off of your metaphysical body, and you're just going to appear before the almighty bare-ass naked. We know that happens. That's not news. But I've learned something so fundamentally true and almost simple through daily eating mushrooms daily, just chomping on those poo-growing bad boys, and it has changed a lot of the way that I look at why psychedelics behave in the way that they do for most individuals. Of course, I can't blanket statement that they're going to be like this for everybody. I'm only speaking from personal experience here, so not everyone is going to relate or necessarily agree. Their personalities might be very combative, and they're going to be like, nah, that's not true, mate. F off. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just a druggie. So yeah, I mean, your mileage is going to vary whether or not what I'm saying holds any validity to you, but let's just jump right into it. So what I've realized is once those layers are removed, there's two types of people, essentially. I mean, you can probably break this down into subcategories, but essentially there's two kinds of people. One kind of person is going to be relieved. They're going to be so delighted to finally get back to baseline and to be reacquainted with the version of themselves that for whatever reason they deemed wasn't good enough for this world. And it's going to be like this budding romance that you're building with yourself, where you fall back in love with who you truly are, and you change every aspect of your life as a result. And often we call that an enlightening or a life-changing psychedelic experience, where the person realizes they can shed all the falsehood and attain a true level of fulfillment and joy in their life simply by reconnecting to these simple things. And once you do reconnect to your simple self, for lack of a better term, the most basic things become, tremendously joyful. Like just watching this effing thing spin, this little magnet twirling around inside that blue food-colored liquid, can be mesmerizing. Just like a kid would walk up to this and be like, wow, and they could probably spend 5 or 10 minutes or more adjusting the speed, watching, as my son would call it, the tomato forming at the top, or the tornado. And oh boy, it's going to pick up some cows. Look at that pressure. So to be in that state is something that is highly sought after via mystics, and that's a huge goal of those who meditate. I mean, there's one school of thought that would say if you meditate with a goal, then you're not meditating properly. But am I just forgetting which way turns it off? I think I am. There we go. But ultimately, that's what people want to attain. They want to be able to appreciate the simple things again, because when we were children, that's what we did. And it's like we've all strayed so far away from our authentic selves, which should be mesmerized by this world. I mean, you can look at the world in so many different vantage points from so many different perspectives, and it's really hard when you get down to that base level state to not see it as mystical and magic and just full of absolute wonder. So there's that type of person who, once they get down to their naked self, they're going to be blown away and they're going to be happy. They're going to love it. But then there's the other side of this coin. There's that other kind of person who, when the psychedelics tear off their personality, they're not going to see it as a good thing. In fact, they're going to feel like they have no effing idea who they are, because that personality was built up as a shield mechanism to cover up a lot of pain and trauma that they've been hiding from, because their real or true, maybe child self or authentic self, never was given enough sunlight and water to fully blossom and grow into a beautiful person. So they don't want the personality structures to be leveled down. They can't handle returning back to a more basic, primitive state. So these are the kind of people who are going to be they're going to be injected with a shot of terror, baby. They're going to be freaking freaked out when they get to that state, because it's raw. And if you've ever had a raw wound, if you've ever had a wound, it's raw in the early stages of being, delivered or administered. Like if you accidentally cut yourself when chopping vegetables and the blood's just starting to eke out and you touch it, it hurts. It hurts. So imagine having a fake scab that you've just been artificially building over this cut your entire life, but underneath it's just been festering and getting bigger and bigger and bigger because it hasn't given the time to actually heal. And then all of a sudden this compound comes in and rips the scab off without warning, and all of a sudden that blood just starts gushing out again, and you feel how raw it is. You're like touching it because you're trying to like put the scab back on. You're like, oh boy, that's gonna be tough. It's going to hurt. And these are the people who need psychedelics the most, because they never learned. And I was in this group. This is my, these are my homies. This is the group that I fell in largely. I mean, I dabbled a little bit in the, wow, this is great and wonderful. But ultimately, I got flushed down into this sewage pipe. So the next question would be, well, if I'm in that terror group and it's just my authentic self is really just all cut up and I've been diced and I don't know how to heal, well, this is usually when psychedelics are great at shining a spotlight on an issue, and now you have to take the time to seek therapy and to really spend some time, maybe with the meditative process, getting down into the real roots of the toxicity. You got to find the source of the poison and you have to subtract it. You got to eliminate it. And this is easier said than done. And this is going to take a lot of work. It can often be something that an individual never fully acquires. They never fully acquire a healthy version of themselves, because those initial experiences were so formidable that now it's like they haven't grown up with the necessary tool set to properly heal these traumas. And these are the kinds of people that fall into drug addictions, because while the drug is dangerous and they know it's bad for them, ultimately the emotional need that it's being used to band-aid is more important to them than the potential harm that it's causing. I mean, it's doing something that they feel is necessary. Otherwise, they wouldn't put themselves in such a dangerous spot. So what this all comes down to is the psychedelics are going to uncover who you really are underneath this crazy persona that we've all been building up and that we're all raised and taught to construct. I mean, our society is built off of this consumerism where that's how we keep it going. We keep the economy alive by keeping people in a state of lack, by believing that they always need this next new thing to be happy. And once they get it, they will be fulfilled. But oh no, then they're reminded that they actually need this next new thing. And they're constantly like a hamster on a wheel, always chasing. It's like all vomit, all retch, but no vomit, as Alan Watts would say, because you never actually get to the goal of being fulfilled or being happy, because there's always something new that you believe you need. And most people reach states of ultimate depression when they finally realize that all the money and all the new things aren't going to do shit to band-aid up or to truly heal this wound that they have actually been doing nothing but intentionally fester and intentionally caused get bigger and bigger since they were a small child, because they are not living in the best way possible. And what these psychedelics do is they put you back into that raw, authentic state. So what I have found on the flip side of this is the more I started to love my true self, and the more I started to learn how to heal those past wounds. Mind you, it even comes down to just being aware of them and being aware that you're in the process of healing and being proud of yourself for taking necessary steps. Even if you're still blundering and you're still not quite there yet, just having that level of awareness changes the entire psychedelic experience to one that goes from potentially being terrifying to feeling a true, authentic connection to who you really are. And it is a beautiful experience. And oddly enough, I've learned this from daily microdosing mushrooms. I realized something profound. Once the mushrooms didn't have the same terrifying effect. This is not talking about tolerance. I mean, even if I took a couple weeks off and then returned to them, I would still get the same, say, visual distortions. Everything is so crisp and clear, and it just looks astounding, like you're looking at the moon from fresh eyes again, and everything is mesmerizing to you in that state. And I would get all these effects, all the body effects, but the one effect that wasn't administered was the mental. My mental fortitude was not altered in a way that made me feel like I was tripping. It was almost like tripping without tripping, and that's when I realized that I was becoming more attuned to my true self, because the mushrooms were bringing me back to a more childlike state. Again, what I refer to as the real me was me as a child, because I remember being very much in love with who I was. And then I started building up all of these layers that, I needed to be accepted in high school. That was a big one for me. So I remember actually trying on different personalities like they were different suits. And I would go from being like a gangster to like a rocker. And I would change my hair when I had hair. Oh, the days of glory are so lost. And yeah, I went through such dramatic shifts, sometimes on a weekly basis. And what happens eventually is you forget that you are building a false self, and you start to mistake the new false self for the real self. And this happens to almost all of us as we age. So I found once I began to align with who I really was, which again was just becoming aware of a lot of the shit that I needed to heal, the psychedelics didn't really change much. Of course, this is dose dependent. We're talking up to a gram or so of mushrooms on no tolerance again, which with potent mushrooms, which I did have in my possession, they were causing substantial shifts in my psyche, to the point where it's like I knew that I should have been having mental alterations, and they were very slight. Fear was for sure not present. I may have been experiencing the positives, like a renewed sense of wonder in life, but the negatives, the scary aspects, were no longer there. And that largely has to do with being reconnected with who I actually am and healing. When you're in the healing process, the psychedelics aren't scary. They begin to work with you. So what I've found is if you're someone who is brought to a place of sheer terror and unacceptance in the experience, they're just rejecting what the psychedelics have to show them. Essentially, what I've learned this meant for me was I was rejecting me. It's all coming from you. The psychedelics, they work with who you are and they bring it out to the light. They exaggerate how you're feeling. So if you're not attuned to that and you're not aligned with love, you're not going to have a good time. you're not going to have a good experience. And this is the real reason why psychedelics are scary. And I've touched on this in other videos, but I've never framed it like this. And I think this is going to help a lot of people even decipher if they are ready to trip, because you got to do a lot of self-work. And that's what the psychedelics also showed me, was I had to do a lot of work just to be able to enjoy the experience. And you would ask, well, why should I want to enjoy it? Why don't I just leave it alone and continue with my falsehood and continue living this fake life? And I would say, well, that's not going to bring you fulfillment. Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, Mr. Tony Robbins says. And I happen to agree with that statement because I've had success through YouTube. I've had popularity through making this YouTube channel, and I soon found that it wasn't bringing anything new to the table. You enjoy it for a little bit. You're like, oh, now I can buy all these awesome new video games except for PS5 because I can't find that shit nowhere, dog. But it doesn't do anything. You start collecting games. They don't get played. You start focusing purely on material aspects because you get that instant dopamine hit of like, whoa, I can buy so much cool stuff now. And keep in mind, I'm not rich. Like most YouTubers at my level would be making so much more than me. But even when I hit like $5,000 a month, I was like, whoa, this is insane. I never even imagined I'd make that much. So yeah, it's like I didn't have the highest standards. So once I started making just a little bit more than my minimum wage ass, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. I can afford stuff again. And you ride that high for a while, but then it dies and you feel so much more empty than before you got on that ride, because it's like you thought that was going to bring you where you wanted to go. And it's just not true. It doesn't work that way. And I'm not saying that everyone should want to trip, but everybody should, in my opinion, want to be their authentic self, because fulfillment is something that you can't get from being fake. The two are not synonymous. It's just not going to happen. And the faker you are, the further you're going to be stretched from your ultimate fulfillment in life, because you have to be an authentic version of you to connect to the things that bring you true joy. That's just how it works. The real reason psychedelics are scary is because you're not real. You are not you're not embodying your real, true, authentic self. Or on another level, you could say that we're actually not real at all and we're just made of empty space. Ultimately, it's all energy vibrating. So, I mean, what does real actually mean? I don't know. I'm the first to admit that I have no idea what real even means. So yeah, I mean, psychedelics are also another level scary because you're not real. And on that level, you realize how fake you actually are. Like even your authentic self isn't real and you're like, holy shit, nothing is real. And that can be quite terrifying or quite beautiful when you realize that all of this is magic, because it's all just vibrations of energy interacting with vibrations of energy that our eyes are converting into some kind of a real image via light. It's insane what's actually happening. So holy Moses, bring me to the talking bush. I must learn. So I hope this video has been helpful for you guys. I could continue rambling on, but that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed this video, check out our Patreon page. You guys keep allow me to keep talking about this nonsense full time. I love you guys. Follow the link to our Patreon. You can buy one of the awesome hooded blankets that we're still selling. We decided to full time sell the no-name ones. It was initially just like a random, you guys had to act fast to get it, but there was such a demand for them. You can now pre-order your no-name sweet, super soft mushroom blanket from psychsubstance.shop. And yeah, we got some other products coming, like a Psyched shirt. Anyway. I love all you guys watching. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you all in the next video. There's some big things coming. I've got about 4 massive videos that I'm editing right now that are really pushing the envelope, and they may not actually be posted to the channel. I might have to throw them only on the website due to how things are going. I don't want to get into too much detail, but things have been a little tough on the YouTube front, and we really value your Patreon support. So if you guys want to keep this going, check out our Patreon page. Little as $2 a month keeps me doing this, because YouTube is they're doing some stuff, man. I don't want to focus on that because we're not putting the energy into that bottomless pit. We are going to continue on a high note, and I love you.